So here was a guy who was prepared musically in the secular field. In the Christian field, shouldn't we even be more prepared?
Hi, this is Kevin Williams, and welcome to this week's episode of Ask Bill. Bill and Gloria Gaither have been writing and singing songs all over the world for decades. We've compiled some of the most asked questions of them throughout the years. Here's this week's question. My son or daughter can sing. What's your advice?
Well, first of all, you are talking to two educators. And the first thing we would say is make sure, first of all, he gets an education. Make sure he finishes grade school, high school. And in our case, we say college. Not everybody has to, but I think it's smart. I would say that to the athletes who come out after their freshman year for the pros. I'd say, I still think you'll be better prepared for success or failure if you've got 2 or 3 years or maybe 4 years of college under your belt. So education is primary. Now, as to his vocal skills or his keyboard skills or his any other kind of instrumental skills, guitar or brass or whatever, obviously you got to have private lessons. And I say to kids, you've got to learn something about theory. I'm getting very weary and tired of kids who have no kind of musical vocabulary. You either need to know the notes or the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. I mean, you need to know the numbers or the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. No, you got to have some kind of language that you can talk to other people who are in the music. So you need to study some theory. Frank Sinatra was pretty amazing. When he would go into the studio to record, and you think he did that with a full orchestra on the floor, he was musically prepared. He was unlike a lot of the rockers who went in, who were on drugs and, all kind of crazy things. I don't know about his other private life otherwise, but he was there at 10 o'clock in the morning. He was in a sharp, clear mind. He knew what he was doing. And today you cannot go into an Italian restaurant without them playing Frank Sinatra records. So here was a guy who was prepared musically in the secular field. In the Christian field, shouldn't we even be more prepared? So you've got this very, very talented kid. There are a lot of things you can do while he's got the education. And then one thing that a college education would prepare for him is he will have a chance to do what I call networking, running into other people, other kids who want to do the same thing, running into possibilities. Just last week, I placed a kid that I've been watching for 4 years in college. I placed him. He's graduating this spring. And I said to him, do you have a job? No. I said, do you know how difficult it is to get a job even with 4 years of college? Yes. Well, there's an opening. And I think you have shown some discipline in what you've done. You're extremely gifted. You're extremely talented. Let me introduce you to this couple who are looking for, I think, a voice just like yours. I just talked to that person today. He said, I hope we can work it out. That kid is unbelievable. Now, there is a good example. Now, had his parents come to me when he was 16, I would have said, finish high school, go to college, then we'll talk. Some parents don't want to hear that. Some kids don't want to hear that. Back in 1954, after I graduated from high school, I thought I was good enough to go out and do it professionally because I had taken a couple summers music camp, what I call music camp today, in Dallas, Texas, 3 weeks each time, where I did learn some theory and learn some basic stuff. But when I compared myself to the professionals at 19, I said, Bill, be honest. Your vocal skills are not that good. Your keyboard skills are not that good. And besides, we were starving to death. A wonderful lesson of life. I go back, I go to college for 4 years, come out, and still I'm not in a group because I'm still not good enough vocally or good enough keyboard-wise. But by that time, we started teaching school, both Gloria and I, and started writing songs. And then the songs caught on. About 10 years later, 28, 29, God said, okay, I think I can trust you with this now. And so we started singing, and never were great singers, but we did have some special songs. So I would say patience, patience, good things last. Sell no rhyme till it's time.
When we sat down to record this, there was a painting of Bill's dad on the wall just next to him. He couldn't help but tell us some of his favorite George Gaither stories. He calls them George-isms.
I can remember when my mother was breathing her last breath, and he had been in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, and the doctors didn't know exactly when she was going to pass, but knew that she was. So I said, Dad, you got to get some sleep, because he'd been up all night. So he went home, and after a while, I thought I'd better check and see if he's okay. He had just come in from going to the grocery store to get some bananas and some dog food for his dog. And just put out his garden. It was coming up. Said, let's go look at your garden, Dad. And so we went out and looked at it, commented about how well it was doing. And he went over to the side of the shed in the garden, and I saw his shoulders shaking. And he was part of the generation that you didn't show a lot of outward affection. He wasn't a hugger type. I went up and put my arm around him and said, Dad, it's okay. Because he was crying. And I never saw him cry much. I said, but it's okay. You're losing your wife. You just lost your son 7 or 8 years ago. It's okay, don't worry. And I just wanted to console him about his crying. And we had always pumped the water together back in the field. I would go out there on any day, and he'd say, well, go back and pump. And it was always an excuse to talk. I don't know how many times we'd gone back there. Sometimes as kids we had to go back by ourselves and pump because the cattle needed water. But this day he was there by the shed, grieving because and so when I put my arm around him and said, it's okay, after a few seconds of silence, he said, want to go pump some water? So I took it from Dad. On some days when it's really, really tough, all you can do is just keep pumping. Keep treading, keep working, and normalcy will be around the bend somewhere. It's the only way that those old-timers made it. I mean, you just had to work your way through it. Was it fun? No, never fun to lose. So some days, just keep pumping.
There's more coming up, but I want to quickly say that if you've ever been to a Gaither concert, you know that it's a time full of laughter, inspiration, and amazing music. You can check out Gaither.com to see when the tour will be in your area and to find out about special Gaither events.
One night on the praise gathering, we were Bob Benson and I were doing what we call housekeeping announcements to the people because they were there for 3 or 4 days. Now tomorrow, we said tomorrow we have changed 2 or 3 of the seminars. We're going to move this over here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And then I made a little joke about something, and nobody laughed, nobody said anything. And so I thought I'd do the old trick of tapping the microphone. I said, testing, 1, 2. Bob Benson was standing over there and said, it's on, Bill. It just wasn't funny. The joke, Bob, but his reaction to it, it's on, Bill. It just wasn't funny.
If you've enjoyed this episode of Ask Bill, click the subscribe button to check out the other great clips on this channel. And if you have a question for Bill, leave us a message in the comments section.